Well, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us for today's episode of CEDA Sparks. My name is Lauren LaGreca, and I am the marketing manager for CEDA, where you can connect with a specialist and gain easy access to all the information, incentives, and resources needed to either start or grow a business here in Cayuga County. Wherever you are on your business journey, CEDA is here for you. Before I introduce our host for today's episode, I want to explain that CEDA Sparks episodes are designed to be brief conversations of topics that are relevant and current in order to spark ideas for your business. As always, our services here at CEDA are free and, more importantly, confidential. So information about programs like this and much more can be obtained by simply reaching out to us. This episode today is focused on expanding your business globally. Is expanding your business internationally something you've thought about? Who is Global New York, and what assistance programs do they offer? Which businesses are eligible to participate? All of this and more as we welcome our presenter for today, Molly Bauer, Director of External Affairs with Global New York. Today's presentation will be recorded and made available for future reference on CEDA's website and to our YouTube channel. If you have any questions during today's presentation, we ask that you type them to me in the chat box. If you submit a question, we will not mention your name or your business unless you do reference them in your question, and we'll look to answer them after today's presentation. After we stop the recording, please stick around for an informal Q&A session with our presenter and CEDA staff. Now I'll turn this over to our host for today, Maureen Reister, my colleague here at CEDA, CEDA's Economic Development Specialist, who will introduce herself and today's guest speaker.
Thank you, Lauren. As Lauren just said, I'm Maureen Reister, the Economic Development Specialist here at CEDA. Together with a small business development specialist and with the support of everyone else on the CEDA team, we help businesses start up and grow in Cayuga County. We do this by connecting businesses to resources on the local, regional, and state level to get the information and incentives they need. As one of our clients put it, we opened doors they didn't even know were there. Today, our CEDA Sparks episode is about Global New York. With representatives around the world and programs offering export funding and assistance, Global New York is a critical resource partner to help New York businesses enter or expand their presence in other countries. Their programs offer financial and technical assistance to connect companies with sales agents and distributors abroad while offsetting the costs of exporting with grants and loans. Whether you are a New York manufacturer or service provider, Global New York is your resource for expanding your business's international footprint. We hope today's episode helps you see all the benefits of engaging with Global New York and the positive impact they can have on your business. And without further delay, we are thrilled to introduce Molly Bauer. Molly Bauer is the Director of External Affairs with Global New York. Molly has been involved in economic development for the past 10 years. She has worked on projects such as Restore New York, Amazon HQ2, and was the Industry Director for the craft beverage sector. Molly also has years of experience attracting foreign companies to New York. Now, as the Director of External Affairs for Global New York, Molly focuses on helping New York companies export their product and services. Thank you so much for joining us today, Molly. This virtual floor is all yours.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you, Lauren. And thank you, CEDA, for having me here today. Very excited to be part of CEDA Sparks. Good morning, everyone. Let's just get into this, I guess. So I work for Empire State Development. We are New York State's economic development agency. Our main mission is to help New York companies grow and expand and increase jobs throughout New York, and we do that in many different ways. We have programs locally with your regional economic development teams throughout each region. There are 10 regions, and each region has a representative in New York. So the Finger Lakes, Western New York, Central New York, New York City, Long Island, the North Country, Southern Tier, Mid-Hudson, and the Capital Region have members of our staff and offices who can help answer any questions you might have on how you can take part of tax credits and different grant programs, not through Global New York, but through Empire State as a whole, which can help you increase your business size. If you're looking to add employees, increase the footprint of your current manufacturing facility, take out some loans. There's some low interest loan programs as well. Empire State Development is your partner to help you do those things. But Global New York in particular Our main mission is to promote competitiveness and foster economic activity by assisting New York State small businesses to export their products and services globally. And we also work to attract international businesses to get them to consider to expand in New York State. So for a small business, we consider that someone with less than 500 employees, but you have to be a New York-based company as well. As mentioned, we have teams all across the entire state. Your main point of contact would be Carrie Baker Scott, who is located in Rochester in the Finger Lakes, but she covers the Finger Lakes, Southern Tier, and the Central New York regions for the state. Here's her contact information on the screen, and you can reach out to Lauren or Maureen to get directly in contact with her as well. Our main office is in New York City, where we have myself and the leader of the division. So why is exporting important? Well, New York State is America's third largest exporter behind Texas and California. And as time goes on, more companies start looking outwardly to sell their products and to find a new market, as they already have either come to a point where they can't sell anymore in their own country domestically, or they're just growing so much exponentially that it now makes sense to go internationally. We like to see companies start to succeed in the domestic market first, but then once you're succeeding in the domestic market, the world really is your oyster, and there is so much opportunity out there. Some of the main exported goods from New York are precious stones and metals, industrial machinery, arts and antiques, electric machinery, manufactured commodities, optics, photos, medical, surgical instruments, vehicles and parts, plastics, pharmaceuticals, and then aircraft and spacecraft parts. So the industries, these are just the top 10. That does not mean that if you don't see your industry here, that your industry would not be a fit to export abroad. And who are our biggest partners? Well, obviously our neighbor to the north, Canada, is one of our easiest targets for export. Switzerland, if you think about the banking industry for services, financial services, as well as diamonds and luxury goods. Hong Kong, our British partners in the United Kingdom, India, China, Germany, Israel, our southern neighbors, Mexico and Belgium. And then we get a lot of our imports from mostly some of the same partners we export to, just in different orders. I think we all know China is one of the biggest countries that we all import from, and of course Canada and India as well. Given where we import and export from, we have strategically selected international offices across the world. So we have a trade representative in each of these offices that we contract with. So we have an office in Canada, Mexico, and South America, the Caribbean, Europe and the UK, Israel, South Africa and Africa, India, China, and we recently opened an office in Taiwan as well. So if any of these regions are of interest to you for your company to export to, we have the help and the tools and the connections to help you get into those industries. And we do that in 3 different ways. We have our Export Marketing Assistance Program called EMAS. We have the State Trade Expansion Program STEP, which we administer, but it is a program, it is a federal program we administer. And then we have our own grant fund, the Global New York Grant Fund Program. And all of these are the tools that we have to help all of you succeed internationally. So the Export Marketing Assistance Service, known as EMAS, it fundamentally is meant to open the door or expand you into a market you're already in. It's a no-cost service, and companies can choose up to 12 markets per 12-month period. In order to be eligible, a company has to be a New York State headquartered company with at least 1 year in business, 500 employees or less, and then 51% of the product value add has to happen in New York State. So what does that mean? That means that if it costs you, the cost of making your product is $100, 51% of that $51 of that 100 has to come from New York, whether it's being manufactured here in New York, so the manufacturing process is happening here, whether it's the cost of the goods and the material going into that product. If it's the design and engineering going into that product as well. 51% of all of that has to come from New York State to qualify. You have to be a true manufactured company here in New York. And so what does this program do? Well, we connect you with our foreign offices, and they provide companies with a report of local market intelligence, an overview of how your company fits into that market, and then a list of sales agents and distributors. So usually what a report would look like is you would get an executive summary that just says an overview of that market and where you fit in, and key findings about how your product could fit, then an overview of that region as well, emerging trends, how different policies might affect you as well, and then a market entry overview, which is very helpful. So we give you a potential route to market, list out who your competitors are, and also who your different channel partners are. And then there's also ancillary information on different trade shows or industry associations or other resources that could help you understand the market more. And again, this is the main service we provide to help companies export, and it's in any of those 9 locations that I mentioned earlier. Then we have our first grant program. And again, this is administered by us, but it's funded by the U.S. Small Business Administration. Through the STEP program, New York State companies can apply for up to $10,000 in grants per program year to help you export. The grant is awarded in the form of a reimbursement and is based on 60% of the total eligible cost. So if you are going over to a trade show internationally, let's just say that you're going to go to Africa Health, you're going to get a booth, you're going to fly over, you're going to get a hotel, you're going to bring some equipment over. If you wanted the full, if that total cost to you was $10,000, you could get $6,000 back. But the maximum again is $10,000 total, but it's a 60% reimbursement. So if you spent $20,000, even though 60% of 20 would be over the 10, your maximum is still the 10. So we look at the maximum award amount is 10, but the reimbursement is only only up to 60%. But again, how do you participate? So again, you have to be operating in New York State. So it's a little different than EMAS. You don't have to be headquartered here, but you have to operate here, manufacture, assemble, or distribute a product or provide an exportable service that contains a 51% U.S. content. So for instance, how I mentioned, 51% for EMAS has to come from New York. In this case, 51 just has to come from the United States. So U.S. Maybe you have your main office here in New York, but you do all your manufacturing in New Jersey. You would be eligible for the STEP program, but you would not be eligible for EMAS. And also you have to meet the SBA sizes in order to qualify as a small business. What are different ways you can use the funds? Well, it can be financial assistance awards for travel. It can be a subscription service offered by the U.S. Department of Commerce. It can be a training workshop, international or qualified domestic trade shows. It can be for website content and foreign language translation, a development of an international marketing campaign. You can hire a consultant who can help you navigate through the export and international market, compliance testing, and then export insurance premium reimbursement. Then we have the Global New York Grant Fund, and this is a program that is administered and funded by New York State, and it provides grants to help New York State's small and medium businesses increase export sales and not-for-profit organizations with export promotion and expansion initiatives. So today we'll focus mostly on the for-profit companies. So to be eligible, you can have grants ranging from $5,000 to $25,000 and from 2 per year. You must give a 50% cash match. And similarly to the criteria for the EMAS program, 51% of the product value add has to happen in New York. You have to have 500 or fewer employees in New York State and be in business for at least 1 year. Again, some of the eligible activities are similar to the STEP funding, but this is for larger amounts. So market customization, trade show and trade admissions, export education, product adaptation, and market certification. When we look at the Global New York Grant Fund, if you want to bundle a couple of different activities that you think you're going to have over the year that might get you to 50,000, and then we could reimburse 50. That's what we like to encourage, is bundling rather than just submitting 2 applications for 5,000 each. If you look at your entire year and bundle it, you'll get a lot more value and you'll get more money from us as well. Not-for-profits are eligible to apply also, and they can get a grant from 5,000 to 100,000, and there's a 25% cash in-kind match. Eligible activities include trade shows, missions, export education, and export consulting. Global New York also takes companies on trade missions. So we go on trade missions. We have one happening at the end of the week, going to Mexico. We're going to India on October 31st. But there are some upcoming opportunities as well that you can apply for and look into. So we're looking to do a trade mission to Taiwan, Japan, late February, early March. These dates are subject to change. Trade Winds, which is a program put on by the Department of Commerce, will take place in Turkey from May 13th to May 15th, and we're going to bring a group of about 6 New York companies over to participate. We're also going to go to Africa Health in the fall of 2024, and then we're going to do a trade mission to the Caribbean, where we'll stop in multiple countries in the fall of 2024. So keep this on your radar, and please reach out to Carrie if there is any interest in participating in any of these missions. If there are any questions, I'm able to take them now, but I'll turn it over to Lauren and to Maureen.
Thank you so much. Well, I had just a quick question. I feel like I know a lot about Global New York, but I always learn more every time I sit through one of these trainings. So thank you so much for doing that. As a small business owner, what is the best way to just get started exporting? Do you have any suggestions for that?
So if you've never exported before, but you're interested in kind of just starting the export process, Global New York through Carrie Baker Scott is going to be a great option. Then also reaching out to the Department of Commerce. The Department of Commerce has a lot more information on kind of the introduction into the exporting world. You could also hire an export consultant, which some of our grant funding can help pay for as well, and they can kind of help you do a deep dive into what it means to participate and to export and learning and understanding your market. You also want to do a deep dive and study into the market you'd like to go into. Someone's product might be a very good fit for the Mexican market, but it might not be a good fit, let's say, for the Chinese market, potentially based on cultural values. Also, a book called Kiss, Bauer, Shake Hands, if you're looking to enter the international market. It helps break down the different business cultures internationally. What you have to do and expect in the United States is going to be very different than what you have to deal with and expect in an Asian nation, especially in Japan and China. In China, they have these things called soft no's, where they won't want to come out right away and just say no and turn you down. So there'll be different signs and cues that they're pushing you off, and that's how they're saying no to you. Or in Japan, there's a big culture of drinking around business deals. So you'll be expected to go out and have meals and bond with the people that you're trying to sell your product to before you'll really ever get a deal signed for them to buy your product. So the cultural ties and understanding how they all play a part in business are very important. So I think that's a great book to look into as well. But yeah, I would say that the Department of Commerce or hiring a consultant would be very helpful. And again, our grant funding can help pay for some of those consultancy services.
Right. That book would be an excellent resource for people. And so not just people getting started into exporting, but to think about who would be ideal to look into exporting. Do you know of any, which industries other than manufacturing, or even some examples of the types of businesses that are exporting? Where do you see a lot of exporting happen from New York State?
So anyone can be an exporter. You can have a product that you make, or you can have a service. It's more about where's a good market for you. So if you think about some food commodities that maybe you can only get in New York, I would say your first bet for food would be to Canada and would be to Mexico, given the short shipping time, or even into the Caribbean. So it depends on your product, but there's a lot of agriculture that comes from New York, a lot of food products. And then New York has a huge industry for photonics and semiconductor industry. And so developing nations that are looking to break into that industry need to have a supply chain that can fill it. And so being able to export into those areas. If you look at Israel, if you have a cybersecurity, if you have defense, if you have aircraft, drones, Israel buys a lot of military and defense products. So that would be a great market for someone in that industry. So there's no particular industry that I would say you can't export, because if you take the time and do the due diligence, I think every single industry has the ability to find an international market. And what happens a lot of time is people find themselves to be accidental exporters first. So they're making their product, they're doing everything in New York, and they get a call because someone has heard about their product or they've done research online, and an international client would request their product or their service. And so we call them an accidental exporter, because they're not going out and looking to export, but it comes across, kind of falls into their lap, and that's the first time they get acquainted with the idea. So any product out there, any service, software as a service, consultancy services, marketing services, any of it can be exportable.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And aside from businesses in Cuyahoga County reaching out to us here at CEDA and us recording this episode for it to live on and for people to refer back to, how else can people learn about Global New York? We recently had an expo a month or two ago in the region. How else do they learn about your programs?
I would say get in touch with Empire State Development, learn about them obviously through you and Lauren, the services that they provide. Empire State Development will have a lot more to offer than just Global New York services, but also reach out to our team. Here's our contact information directly. It'll go to, you have our website here, and it talks in depth a lot more about our different programs and services. And then it also has information in former webinars that we've had. And then also our email address. So if you have a question directly for Global New York, you can reach out to us here at globalny@esd.ny.gov. Send us a question, and someone from your region, potentially Carrier, someone else, maybe even myself, will reach out to you with the answer. And then we do have a phone number as well. If people still like to get on the phone, you can give us a call, and then we'll direct you to whoever can best answer your question. But this would be how I would say to learn more about Global New York, and just be to reach out to us and ask us your questions.
Perfect. And I know on that website, you have some country-specific presentations that have been given at the different expos. So you don't have to necessarily wait for an expo to happen. You can go right there and, go through some of those presentations.
And then next year, in September, we're going to do the expo again. We'll be back for another road show. We'll be coming to the Finger Lakes, Central New York, and your region next year as well. So if there's interest again in having people attend, those dates will likely be in September. But we'll come back and be there for people to come and talk to, meet in person with our international team. So it'll be a chance for companies to meet one-on-one with our international directors and find out if your product is a fit. But that'll be in September, and we'll send out more information about that probably as we get into the spring.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I don't see, do we have any other questions?
Nothing else has come through the chat as far as questions. So I also want to thank you, Molly. This was fantastic. Great presentation, great reference for businesses that are looking to, step into this market, or they're already here and they need some other support. So It's fantastic.
Well, thank you both for letting me participate in CEDA Sparks.
Thank you. So, well, and for anyone listening to this, if there are any other topics you'd like us to consider for future episodes, or if you have any business needs, please contact a CEDA specialist. We are here for your business. So at this time, we're wrapping up the recorded portion of CEDA Sparks, episode 6. If any of you would like to stay on and ask any questions that will not be recorded, please feel free to do so now.